Hey, thank you for checking out the Performance Anxiety Podcast on the Pantheon Podcast Network. As always, I am your host, Mark. And if you're looking for new music, this is the episode for you. Peat Rains of Bred Raptors, with the question mark, is the guest. He's the kind of guy who started playing bass because everyone else was playing guitar. His introduction to music was a little different than most. His earliest influence was his deadhead pastor father. Immediately after high school, he was signed to a label in a Pennsylvania diner. It was one of those milkshake type of deals. He started playing 8-string bass because of a typo and a friend willing to front him $700. The band Bred Raptors has paid its dues by busking in New York City subways. But that's also how they got the gig opening for Yoko Ono at the Museum of Modern Art, a TED Talk, and several birthday parties. Peat is very candid about being difficult to define, winning the all-important wife demographic, and what Rick Springfield has or has not done for him. We also find out about the strangest tip the band has ever received. So follow the band at Bred Raptors on social media, buy music on Bandcamp or through their website, ubredraptors.com, which is also where you can book them for your next birthday party. Follow us at Performance ANX on social media and support us at ko-fi.com/performanceanxiety or with merchandise at performanceanx.threadless.com. And without further delay, Peat Rains of Bred Raptors on Performance Anxiety on the Pantheon Podcast Network.
Okay, good. They're all gonna be bad. This is Pete. This is Pete with Bred Raptors. You're listening to the Performance Anxiety Podcast, and I just want you to know that I told people I was on this thing, and they're like, "Is it about sexual dysfunction?" And I said, "Yes, it is." So for all your sexual awareness needs, go to the Performance Anxiety Podcast. Yeah. Okay. Well, then they got cured. They're no longer impotent. That's great. Awesome. Yeah. I killed all my porn, so I'm just,
Oh, well, that's
fine.
That's good. It probably helped the buffering.
There you go. Now I gotta find it again. Oh my god.
I know. I might be able to help you with that.
Okay, cool.
Just don't tell my wife.
We'll start an OnlyFans page.
There you go. You call it Bred Performance Anxiety?
Only glands? Maybe it's just close-ups of penises. I'm not sure.
Or thyroids.
Oh, there you
go. All different kinds of glands. So,
yeah.
Thanks for joining me, man. This is going to be cool.
Yes, thanks for having us. And me. Sorry about the last-minute change-up.
No worries, man. It happens all the time.
When a band member lives out of the city,
Yeah. Well, look, it happens all the time, man. No worries. We just roll with the punches. So
cool, man. I appreciate that.
So the way I normally like to start things out is to find out a little bit about your history and how you got into music as a profession. I mean, was that something that you were into as a kid? Was it something that was in the house a lot, or were you drawn to it later in life? How did it come about?
That's interesting because I definitely come from a musical family, but it's not in the cliche way of, I used to put on little shows as a kid or whatever, like dumb actor cliche way they saying. Like, my dad was a pastor at a church, and I had a very odd childhood, but music was always around. But it was like Celtic music because we're Scottish, and my parents were hippies, and they followed around the Grateful Dead, so it was a lot of jam band music, a lot of folk music.
Oh wow.
The Grateful Dead all the time. So. But I rebelled against that when I grew up. I was like, no way, I'm just going to listen to punk rock and fuck the establishment.
Yeah.
And then I kind of found myself later in life being drawn to that type of music anyway. And I'm like, fuck, maybe they were right. Maybe it was just a phase, but I do still enjoy punk rock. I tried to be in a mosh pit recently, or I guess right before the pandemic, I went to a metal show and I was like, what? My old bones cannot take this anymore. So
oh God, no.
You guys have at it.
Yeah. I'll enjoy the music now.
I remember my dad, I know it's crazy, but my dad used to play bass, after his sermon when he was preaching.
Wow.
And, now I'm like an atheist, so I don't really care about the church, but it was my first time seeing somebody like perform like that. So I was like, well, I'm going to be a bass player then because we have a bass in the house. And I didn't know how to play, obviously. So, and I never took lessons, but I think I just wanted to do something different, and because the guitarists were always like a dime a dozen, but I was like, every band needs a bass player, right? So I'll be a bassist. And then I guess I started taking it seriously around like 14, 15, and I kind of found myself to be, I was like, man, I'm always like the serious one at band practice, you know, like Captain Killjoy. Guys, we have to practice. We have a show at the middle school auditorium. We really need to like get our shit together.
You don't know who's going to be there.
And then there could be a talent scout there.
Exactly.
But I don't know. And then I got signed to a record label outside of high school. So
oh wow,
I was like, okay, shit, like this is it. So, and I thought that I didn't think I had made it, but I definitely thought, okay, I'm at least on the right trajectory. Now, looking back, I remember signing that record label or that record contract in a diner, like in, you know, central Pennsylvania.
That's such a northeast way to go, too.
Something should have told me that's something should have told me that it was definitely something was off, you know. And I don't think it was I don't think it was predatory or anything. I got to keep all the rights to my songs. Yeah. But it was just kind of a shady record label that was trying to get talent, and they did pay for my album to get made, but outside of that, it was like, you're on your own.
Did they pay for your meal at the diner?
3,000 CDs. They did.
Oh, see?
I was like, what? Free milkshake? I'm listening. Where do I sign?
Sign me up.
So then I moved to New York City, and it was like, I was doing my solo bass thing, and then I always felt, I don't know, I felt stagnant, so I wanted to start a band. And a friend of mine had she had a art collective called the Blood Dumpster. She's like, hey, I got a show in 2 weeks. Do you want to play? And I was like, I'm going to just start a band and play that show in 2 weeks. And that was my goal. So I started with a drummer. We like just made up 5 songs very quickly, and we played at this art collective, this Greenpoint art gallery or something. And that's how the band started. That's how Bred Raptors started, was just bass and drums. We added a cello then. And we've gone through many iterations and members since. So
yeah, so,
that's where we're at.
How did you come up with the name Bred Raptors as a question?
Well, we fucking stole that from Jurassic Park. That's easy.
Yeah. But why that quote?
It always kind of stuck with me to be like really cool to have a band with no guitarist and no singer, and I wanted to name it Bred Raptors. And I honestly thought this was going to be kind of like a one-off show. But then we got accepted into the Music Under New York program, which is like you get legal permits to busk in the subways. And I remember my first drummer, he only lasted with the band for a couple months because I was like, hey, we're busking like 3 times a week and it's hard work. Yeah. And he's like, no, man, I'm out, you know? Like,
oh, wow.
He's like, this is, you know, he was used to playing in a jam band, you know, that played every couple months, played at parties, jammed a lot. And I love the guy. He actually ended up becoming a volcanologist, so he studies volcanoes all over the world. So I'm
whoa,
like, you sure you don't want to come back and get paid like 0 money to be in this band, dude? So,
he might be able to find the amber that you're
awesome,
looking for.
but then well, I'm not sure if he's more of a fan of Dante's Peak or the movie Volcano, because that's really what I want to know, like a professional opinion about that Bloods and Crips bitter rivalry.
Exactly. So you never really wanted...
the band's been going by... Okay. No, I was just saying the band's been going hard ever since. Because once we got put in the subway, that's why I moved to New York, was to play in front of people. And you get seen by like 60,000 people a night. They're not going to all listen to you. They're not going to stop for you. They're not going to all take pictures of you or buy a CD, but they will hear you no matter what. So...
in the beginning, or from the beginning, it's the idea was never to have a guitarist, but was it to have a cellist, or was that something you just kind of thought?
I think so. Cool. It was either going to be 2 bass players or some other low end instrument.
Okay.
And you know, looking back, it would have been so much easier to just have another bass player, because trying to find a cellist is so hard. Because like, I love the sounds of strings, I do, and I've always been drawn to it, but finding a cellist that can not just play classical music has been so hard. You got to find someone that can improvise. You got to find one that can write, that can play on stage with loud drums, that can work with pedals, work with looping. It's just, I genuinely believe I've probably talked to 90% of the cellists around the New York area. Wow. And that is a fuck ton of cellists.
No kidding.
And a lot of them are really sweet, but some of them have, you know, they're just like, you know, they're used to playing weddings and orchestra gigs where they get paid a lot of money. and I'm like, hey, you want to hang out with me in the back of this van for a month? You know, it's kind of a hard sell.
You want to take your cello
But
into the
I'm very
subway?
lucky to have. Oh my god, yeah. My one cellist's cello was $30,000 or something like that. Like, it was a ridiculous amount of money because it was made in I don't know, Mongolia or something in the 20s, and we don't know. So it's just, they're incredibly fragile instruments that are handcrafted. Anyway, I'm incredibly lucky to have Tara in my band now. She's an amazing cellist. And she plays an electric cello live, which is so much better to travel with because it's so much more aerodynamic and thin.
Yeah, I saw that
and you can
video
kind of
of that.
adjust on the fly. Yeah. She has a nice one too, but you know, we'll record with that one, but we wouldn't bring it to the subway. You know, it's the temperature spikes are just too extreme. So
oh yeah, for sure. I didn't even think of that. So
yeah, well, it's because I'm an 8-string bass down there, and I have to take it like every season basically to get looked at. And he's like, "What are you doing to this thing?"
Wow.
I'm like, it's my only bass. I really could. This is all. I'm trying my best not to beat the shit out of it, but it happens.
How did you go to the 8-string bass? You said you'd never taken lessons. I mean, was that something that you thought would be cool, or because the one you play, you designed, right?
Yeah, I helped design it. I'm endorsed by Conklin Guitars, and I think it was in college that I was always playing 4-string. That was my thing. I never played 5. I never played 6, and I don't know. I was just doing some retail therapy in college. I was feeling pretty aimless, and I just looked up. I wanted to look up what a 7-string bass cost, and I literally hit the wrong button on the computer when I was looking at eBay.
Oh my gosh!
And like a 7-string bass would have cost something like $2,000-$3,000, but for some reason there was this like Korean company that had a bunch of really shittily made 8-string basses for like $700. I didn't have that $700, but I had a friend who like kind of came from money, and I was like, dude, buy me this bass and I swear like I'll pay you back, you know. And he's like, okay, dude. He was the drummer in my band, so I was like, this is gonna help you, all right? You can write this off. I don't even know what a write-off is. I still don't know if I fully know what a write-off is, but anyway, he bought that for me, and I think I paid him like $50, and he's like, dude, you're well on your way to doing a lot more with that $700 than I ever would. So
wow,
don't worry about it. And you know what? He dated my sister for a while, so I think I'm gonna call this even.
I think I would say that's fair.
I think it's like a dowry. But so I remember getting that bass, and it just, I don't know, it just opened everything up. It's just the 2 strings are lower and 2 higher, so it's like F sharp to high F, and I tune that high F to an E. So it's just expanding what I already knew. There's no way that I could say I mastered the 4-string and I went to 8th. There's no fucking way. I can't. Like, I'll never be as good as Jocko or Victor Wooten or Les Claypool. I'll just put that out there because everyone thinks people that play more than 4 strings are losers. I'm a loser for totally other unrelated reasons. It has nothing to do with how many strings are on my bass, but it's got more scale than a grand piano, so I just wanted to do more with it.
Wow.
But now that I have a cello in the band, like, I can sometimes just play the low end and she plays the high, and we kind of switch off. So I think it's the best of both worlds. I'm not up there doing these huge masturbatory solos. I'm up there. I see it like it's like a songwriting tool. It's not something to like show off or to shred on, but people are still impressed with it. So I will do my best to talk to them about it, but I'm not a gearhead. And so when they start asking real technical questions, I'm like, ugh, no, this is wood.
You won't get any of that here.
I really appreciate those people. I'm glad they exist because I'm endorsed by a couple other pedal companies too, and I'm always getting questions about my pedals. And I know the people asking me these questions, they know more than I do about it. So I'm almost like, hey, what can I do to make this hissing sound stop? Yeah. So I've had a lot of really cool people. They're really nerdy about certain things, and I really appreciate that because you can always strive to know more and get better and hone your sound. It should be an evolution.
Well, if you didn't have those people, we wouldn't have those people making those effects and those instruments.
Yeah. For sure. Oh yeah. I love boutique pedals for that reason.
Oh yeah.
Mainly because the big pedal companies, they don't want to sponsor me. But the little ones, you know, I have a shot with at least I'll answer my email and say no.
Yeah.
And I'm never looking for free shit. That's the other thing. Like, I know they get inundated with people that are like influencers and people that have maybe like a sizable reputation with their band, and they're just like, hey, give me free stuff. And I'm like the bass I have, I paid artist pricing for it. There's no way that bass took 8 or 14 months to build. There's no way I'm just going to ask people to like dedicate their time and be like, I'll give you a shout out on my MySpace page. Like, it just doesn't work like that.
Yeah, I was a photographer for like 15 years. I get that. You'll get so much exposure. You can do it for the exposure. No, exposure's not going to pay my rent.
Done that. It's so funny because like when we get asked to play a wedding or something, it's usually from a really cool couple that likes our music and they understand musicians. But every once in a while we'll get asked to do a wedding for like just whatever people. And I kind of feel bad charging them as much as we do, but we get screwed on every other show throughout the entire year.
Wow.
So if we finally can get paid properly once, and it's most of the time going to be being paid by one of the parents, I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
So like one of those shows will help fund a quarter of our year, or like a tour.
Oh,
you
nice.
know, like one $4,000 or $5,000 payday will go a long way. Like, we'll really stretch that dollar. But the other shows where you get paid $50 and an Instagram story, it sucks, but you have to swallow it and just do it.
Talking about some of the shows, and all, you mentioned that you guys do busking in the subway systems, but there was a whole story behind that. I mean, that you guys got one of a very limited amount of permits to do that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Music of New York it's been around since like 70s or 80s.
Okay.
And when we first submitted to that, there was no part of me that thought we were going to make it. I remember
Really?
You have to submit a video first. Yeah, I mean, just because like we're not panpipe flute players, you know, and those guys work fucking hard. But I know what's in the subway, and I know what's, aesthetically pleasing to people. But I remember when we sent the video in, I did like this tapping version of Eleanor Rigby.
Oh, wow.
Because like, while I'm not a huge fan of the Beatles, I knew whoever listening would be. So we did that, and we did a song, and we just did like the most like full on the floor kind of like head bobby song.
Oh,
and
cool.
I think something like 700 people submitted. Like, that's kind of the average each year.
Wow.
And they give about 60 slots out, and then you have 5 minutes to audition in front of a bunch of judges, and then I think only 15 to 20 get in.
Wow.
So, but we didn't wear masks for the audition because we didn't want to scare anybody.
Right.
But it was kind of cool that there was like younger judges on the panel, and they wanted to see something different. I think we got lucky. Like, the year that we did it, there was just a lot of like singer songwriters, and I'm not saying they're bad, they're not, but it was just kind of monotonous, a little repetitive after a while. So
yeah, there's nothing unique about that.
So yeah, and you're trying to capture people's attention, and especially, I don't want to sound like an old guy yelling at the clouds, but like kids these days, like, it's very hard to capture somebody's attention, especially like with with cell phones becoming more and more the only thing we're looking at. So if you can visually capture them, you have like 2 seconds to capture somebody's attention. And a lot of times it doesn't work. But if they look up and they see 3 guys or a band wearing some masks and they're playing some music and they take out their earbuds and they actually listen, then we know we've hooked them. And if we can get them to like miss a train or two, that's huge.
Oh, yeah.
But we haven't bushed in a couple years because, well, I mean, obviously COVID, but
yeah,
it's so different now. Because like, while we finally have like reception in the subways,
mm-hmm.
nobody's buying CDs anymore at all. Like, no computers come with CD drives.
I know.
And everything is just streaming. So the only money you're getting is like tips. And then a lot of people are not carrying cash around, and you can't really, stop a song to get somebody's Venmo from,
right.
From them. And
right.
So I don't know. I love that busking is a part of our history, and I would really like to kind of get back to it at some point. But this current landscape, it's just, we are basically just playing for exposure every night.
Wow.
And I would see, we like rock hard for like 3 hours. Instagram followers.
Oh, man.
And I'm not, that's nothing to sneeze at, but like you'd have to pretty much be doing this for like 30 years to make any kind of headway with that kind of ratio. So
yeah, that's true.
So now, you got to adapt or die. So we're just gonna, I don't know, got to be strategic, figure out the next move. You have to compete with all these like influencers and content creators. It's just tough. Like sometimes we're just like banging our head against the wall. Like we worked on this thing, we put out content, we're really proud of it. The general public forgets within a couple days. So what's next? It's
unbelievable how short the attention span is. But one of the things I liked about the videos that I saw of you in the subways was the sense of humor that you guys had too. I mean, first of all, the masks were interesting, but you also had the signs.
Well, I know we tried so many things to just like get people to stop and listen, because we heard a lot of hate in the subways too,
really?
But most of the experience, like 90% of the experiences were like really positive. Even on nights that were like really dull and we didn't make any money, there were still points where like there's like nobody there, and you're playing, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8 songs and nobody's stopping. And then all of a sudden during one of your like not as cool songs, you look up and there's a huge crowd. And you're like, fuck, how do we like transition this into one of our really, really catchy songs? Because that will keep people there.
Yeah.
And the bigger the crowd, the more exponentially it's going to grow. But then other times you'll be kicking ass and it's like a tumbleweed will just roll across because there's fucking nobody. And like, there's no rhyme or reason. There's no like method to the madness. We knew like never to play the day after a holiday. So if like Memorial Day was a Monday, like you'd never play that Tuesday because nobody wants to be at work. Right. And they're not stopping for anything, so we learned a couple tips and tricks like that. But for the most part, sometimes we'll be like, fuck, we made like $700 tonight. And other nights we're like, there was so many people and we barely cracked 2.
Wow.
So, and that's, and when I say those numbers, people are like, wow, like that's amazing, but it's a ton of work. And, we put most of the money back in the band anyway. Like that money doesn't last very long, but it's like strenuous. It's like 5 hours of work and you're literally pulling like hundreds of pounds up flights of stairs.
Yeah. So when you're down there busking, with the permits that you've got, are there limits to how long you can be down there, or do you need to be down there for a certain amount of time to keep the permit, or?
So in the program, you book out like every 2 weeks.
Okay.
So the thing is, like, you say you're available these times and you want these locations, and then they kind of put you wherever. So
they just ignore it and do their own thing.
Well, it's like if you pick like 4 locations that you want, like those are the good ones. We did Times Square, Union Square, Herald Square, and like Grand Central Station. And we always picked the evening rush hour because the morning rush hour that's fucking stupid. Yeah. Don't ever do that. Like people are late to work constantly. They're not stopping. And you don't want to do the lunch crowd because the subway is just not as packed. So the evening crowd, we always did 6 to 9. Now, there was no slots after us, so we could have kept going. But on a weeknight, which we usually did, the subway dies down. And it's just not worth playing after like 10 p.m. On a weekend, sure. But then you're gonna have a lot of people who aren't on the program just waiting for your spot. And sometimes impatiently waiting. So if you show up and there's already somebody in your spot, like I've seen other musicians get really aggressive and like flash their permit in their face, and it's like that's not a way to do it, because guess what, like you're not being cool in that way. And then these people, they have no incentive. So like, what are you gonna do, get a cop? Because that's what you'd have to do. So we would, like, if that happens, so like there was usually like break dancers in our spot or something, like you go in there and you throw a $10 bill down and you're like, hey man, like we have a spot at this time, we're gonna set up next to you, but just keep doing your thing. And then that's like another 15 minutes that they can play. So
that's awesome.
It's all about community there. So, but again, we haven't busted in a while, and we wouldn't even know what it looks like now, like post in quotation marks COVID.
Right.
So that's why we've been touring really, really heavily for the last like 6 years. So we're anxious to kind of get back to that life.
I also noticed a few other interesting things that you've done, like you've done a TED Talk. Let's see, you performed with Yoko Ono at the Museum of Modern Art.
those are all Subway stuff.
Really?
And that's where I was like, I would try to tell like my band members in the past, like they're like, why are we busking? Like we're not making as much money. And I was like, every good thing that we've gotten has been because of the Subway. And I really, again, I don't think it's going to be a forever part of us, but there is something to be said about being in the right place at the right time. It's the right person seeing you. Like it's tough because like there were times that we had to like cancel our Subway shows, right?
Okay.
And then the thought would plague me all night that this was the night that like the right person was walking by and we weren't there. You want to talk about performance anxiety? Like that's like haunts me to this day about the shows that we didn't play. Right. And it's like Schrodinger's cat, where like you don't know if the cat's dead in the box. Like I don't know because we didn't play that night, and like I'm still on this track of life, and I don't know if it's the correct one. And like I don't know. It's tough to reconcile, but like the Museum of Modern Art, one of the program directors saw us in the subway. He's like, hey, Yoko Ono's weird. You're weird. You know, do you guys want to play the show? We don't have much of a budget. And we're like, fuck yeah, we want to play the show. And like the budget that wasn't that big was like bigger than like most things that we were getting at that time. So
wow.
We're like, yes, we'll do it. And then we did Adult Swim. We did music for Adult Swim, and we did their Comic-Con show. And that was because of the Subway. Somebody saw us and they're like, hey, we're going to get a bunch of Subway acts. We did the Toy Fair every year, and that's because they were doing Subway acts. And like the TED Talk was like, I think that was one of the only ones that we did because we were doing ancillary stuff. But I try to tell, you know, like, you don't know who's going to walk by, and it's important. And fuck it, it's like super fun to play and to kind of feed off the energy of the crowd. And like, I keep trying to chase that dragon on tour because, you know, sometimes you're playing like a shitty venue on a fucking Tuesday night somewhere in Kansas, and then all of a sudden it's like, you know, there was 5 people here.
Fucking Kansas.
So, but you got to play like there's 5. You got to, yeah, no. You got to play like there's 500. I mean, that's like 30% of all the Kansas population came to our show, but still, it's like it's not the best feeling to look out and see such like dead space. That's, you know, we're cutting our teeth. That's what you do. You put in your time. So
we'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. I want to take a minute and talk about our sponsor, Tiesta Tea. Tiesta is a tea company on a mission to create loose leaf tea beverages with premium ingredients that taste good and do good. Each tea is blended for one of 5 categories, so you can energize, slenderize, boost antioxidants, boost immunity, and relax. My current favorite is Blueberry Wild Chow. You know, when I was growing up, my dad always told me, once you go loose, you never go bagged. And you know what? He was right. Go to tiestatea.com and use the promo code anxiety15 at checkout to get 15% off your order. You think you know tea? You haven't tried Tiesta Tea. Taking away the busking, how often are you guys out on the road?
I mean, before COVID, we were doing pretty much seasonally. So we're doing like a spring, summer, and fall tour. We've done a couple winter tours. It's just kind of like when we get like a really good anchor date, I'll be like, fuck, like it's in point A and then there's point B. Let's just book a bunch of stuff getting there and back kind of thing. But winter is tough because it's like the weather's bad. Not a lot of people want to leave their house. It's just harder to get guarantees. So
wow, I didn't know that.
Spring is great. Summer has a lot. Summer has a lot of festivals. Fall has like the tail end kind of smaller festival circuit that we do, and we just want to hit as many points as possible because like if we're already out on the road, we might as well do it. I think just this last tour too was the first time we actually took a day off. We like never took a day off on tour because we're like, hey, if we're traveling through like Boise, Idaho, we might as well play a fucking show. But there's definitely something to be said for like taking a night off, regrouping, getting your energy back. So that's kind of what I'm in the midst of now. I'm booking this really big spring and fall, like summer tour.
Oh, nice.
And like I don't know where we're gonna play in like South Dakota. I have no idea what's there.
Right.
And everyone knows about like between Kansas and Colorado is literally 11 hours of nothing. It's like no man's land. For like anybody that tours, they'll talk about that. Like if you can make that stretch then you can hit Colorado and you can hit the West Coast and all that. You can hit all the really great spots. But getting there, it's basically adding like another 10 days to your trip. So
you have a drummer and a cellist. When did they, because they're not the original drummer and the cellist, like you said, you had a quite a lot of turnover over the years. That you've got a new drummer.
The new. So yes, we have a new drummer now. His name is Danny Scher. We played with him a couple years ago. He has a project called Horse Torso that is just like so fucking weird. Like it would think Frank Zappa weird, you know, but he's like the mastermind behind it. So
wow,
I really like that he's also a band leader, because he understands like how hard it is to book these gigs and you know, but he hasn't done a lot of touring with that project. So glad to have him on the road with us. Tara's been with us for about 4 years now. Sometimes we had temporary people. Sometimes, you know, we had hired guns just to like help out because somebody bailed right before tour or something like that. So
isn't that what happened with Tara?
Still keep in touch. Yeah, we had Tara came on with about 5 days notice.
Wow.
Which ironically so did Danny. So, and they've known each other before. So I'm really glad they have this like foundational relationship, and he comes highly recommended, and she's like, yeah, I can vouch for him kind of thing. So it's great.
Oh, that's awesome.
But finding a cellist that quickly was like, that was a miracle, you know, because our one cellist, he bailed, you know, 5 days before a big tour.
Wow.
He had some kind of injury.
Oh.
And we were like, okay, like I remember we had our like notation for all the cello parts, and I was sending them to like violin players. I even sent them to like this 12-string bass player that he was just going to jump on the road with us and do the cello parts on his bass. And
oh man,
I'm glad we had a cellist for that tour. And you know, not all the shows were awesome, but she like jumped in and learned it and made it her own really quickly, and that's huge.
That is amazing. And how long has she been in the band now?
About 4 years now.
Okay.
So it's kind of hard to tell with the pandemic. This time is kind of like a weird flat circle. I try to remember, but the last big tour we did, we went from Canada to Mexico, and it was like this huge monster tour. And we're like, okay, we're going to take a couple months off, do some writing, and then we're going to get back to it. And then fucking COVID happened. So we were off for 1.5 years.
So she's not on the last full-length album that you guys did.
No, but that was our 4th full-length album, yeah.
Yeah.
But during the pandemic, we wrote basically 2 albums worth of material.
Wow.
So we'll be recording that before our next huge tour. We were supposed to record that a couple months ago, but then, you know, some other COVID stuff happened, and so we had to push it back, which is fine, because then we got a new drummer, and he's got to kind of make it his own too. So just tough now, because like, you know, you're just going to spend a shitload of money making an album, and everyone's just going to get it for free. So it's like, but it's fine, because that's just what you do now, I guess.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll put out some cryptocurrency or
some NFT.
An NFT. Yeah, that's all the rage now, right? Can't go wrong.
Oh no, of course not. Bitcoin's doing just fine.
We need our own multi-level marketing scheme for this band. I think that's the next step.
That's just Raptor coins. That's only you can cash them in.
I know. Name it something really stupid, and then leave the country with all the money invested.
Oh, so like a lot of tech stuff.
Yeah. Which I won't care.
So, right. So has the sound of the band changed at all in adding Tara to it? Because she's classically trained, and I mean, I imagine most professional cellists are, but
it's definitely different. Every time we get a new member, we lose songs that we wrote in the past. Like, there's just no way around it. That's just like, you don't intend that to happen, but they'll kind of go on the back burner, and you don't play them as much, and you kind of want to focus on writing new stuff, so the new person kind of feels involved, and then it just eventually those just kind of die until like you have a show where you're booked and you have to play 2 sets, and then we're like, okay, what can we bring out from the graveyard, kind of thing. And like, sometimes you have like like we've had cellists that are just, you know, their specialty was just like shredding. Oh. And that's not what Tara does. Like, she's like me, where she's like wants to put a lot of focus in like how the songs will feel, what the harmonies will be like, and like really making the song a cohesive narrative. Because we don't have lyrics, we don't have a singer. Like, it's important to have some kind of narrative for the song that sounds like a complete thought. Like, we're both not big soloers, you know, like we'll take a solo, but it's like, I love it when you can, you know, there's a theme that you get stuck in your head. There's some kind of earworm that like you can hum to yourself later. You're like, what is that? What song is that? Like, that's important to me. Like, I'd rather make somebody feel something from the inside than just impress them with some stupid gimmick.
Well, yeah, you mean you get a melody stuck in your head. You don't get a guitar solo stuck in your head for the most part.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the song that I did hear,
she could do both.
The song that
what song was that?
Conclave, the one that you guys did together. That's an amazing track.
That's interesting because Tara and I, we were working on another song that was like this like monster song, and it was like had a bunch of parts, and I really liked it, but it never went anywhere. It never went past that. We wrote the whole thing. It's like a 6-minute song, and we're like, and at the end we're just like, I was like, hey, I kind of have this one thing I'm working on with this one stutter effect on my pedal, and like that became like just that last 20 minutes when we're like wrapping up was the most exciting part. And that's what Conclave was just like this just one idea, and we were both in there together, and we already like our creative juices were flowing, but it was almost like stopping time, and we just used whatever we had left in the tank to like, hey, how about we do this and then we kind of like wrote it really quick, and we brought it to practice, and it was kind of like rounded out. So that's the one that we ended up like starting most shows with, just because it's so different from what we normally do.
Yeah,
but it's still kind of catchy that you can capture anybody who's like just there for the last band or something.
It's the first track I played for my wife, and she loved it. She thought it was amazing. She said it sounds like it could be on a soundtrack.
Yeah, that's what we're going for. Wives are our best demographic that we can get, so appreciate that.
And we've been listening to the albums for days now. And usually in the car, and she's like, "This is amazing driving music." Ice Nine, Lux Alterna.
From Requiem for a Dream. You
guys are just amazing at interpreting classical and putting it into a, I guess, post-rock viewfinder, maybe. I'm not exactly sure how the best way to describe it. I hate trying to describe somebody's music to themselves. So
no, that's fine, because that's what we like, being kind of like just coloring outside the lines and being a little hard to define. The problem is that, you know, it becomes the easiest way to kind of reject us from stuff. Like, no, you don't really work for this festival because like you're a little too, we can't like easily compartmentalize you. And, you know, A&R agents and managers and booking rosters, they've all like kind of turned us down because they're like, you're not easily marketable.
Wow.
And I'm like, I don't believe that. I think we are. I think we're really accessible, and wives love us. So why can't you? I don't understand.
They're the best demographic.
I know. I hope so. That and like little kids. So little kids love us. We're available for birthday parties, everybody. Okay.
And you'll wear a unicorn mask.
We will. We'll wear anything you want. Like we'll sell out so fast. Just tell us what to do. Where's the casting couch for this band? I will sleep with anybody.
I'll see. There you go.
There it is. Wow. What a beautiful burgundy couch.
Hides the stains.
Maybe it's magenta or mauve. I can't tell.
Honestly, I don't know either. I looked through a lot of the videos and stuff, and I've got a question that really has nothing to do with the music. But
I'm here for it.
Are you a juggler?
I am a juggler, yes.
I thought you might be.
That's better than being a juggalo, but I do teach juggling on the side. So that was one of my side jobs before before the pandemic, and it's something I still like to do. We're like the nerdiest band. We play frisbee and juggle, and Tara reads, listens to podcasts and stuff. Like we're not going to destroy a hotel room or something. Like I might hit the ceiling and scuff it up with some juggling clubs, but that's it.
Hey,
you know,
that's
it's just like I always found juggling to be really like cathartic and almost meditative, and it's just for me. I've done some juggling shows, but I really don't enjoy it because, you know, every time like a kid comes up, I'm like, I feel like I have to do this like little 10 to 15 second act for them, you know, whereas like I'd rather just be alone, run drills, because like you're just dealing with the elements. You're only dealing with like gravity and physics and the like weather elements. So
yeah.
I really enjoy it. I didn't do it as much over the summer as I'd like to, and I lost all my sunlight, which sucks, but now it's cold again.
Yeah.
But that's my thing. That's like one of my hobbies, especially on the road, because like you have to get to like the nicer venues we play. You have to get there like 3:00 in the day to like load in, sound check, and then there's like 6 hours until the show starts. So
pick up a hobby.
You know, I could go look at porn, or I could do juggling, or do both.
I was gonna say you could probably juggle some porn.
Yeah, that's true.
Add some.
You can juggle dildos. They're
that was gonna be my next thing.
The same size, but they're a little floppy.
Yeah.
But they're weighted the same. So
are they?
With some practice, Mark, I'm gonna make this happen for you. Yeah.
Right. Well, bring that show to DC, and I'll promote it.
I know. That's what our stage show is missing.
It is. A visual element besides the masks.
I know. We got to compete with these young kids.
I know. Well, you know, like you said, you got to get them out of the phones, out of their faces. What better way?
Yeah.
Than to juggle sex toys.
Than missing and hitting them in the head with a dildo. Got it. Exactly. Okay, I'm gonna write that down.
Good. All right. Step 1, juggle dildos. Step 2, assault children. Step 3, profit.
Step 4, become a sex predator on my license. So let's not do that.
Step 5, register every time you move.
Yes, yeah.
So you said you're working on a new album. You have like 2 albums worth of music to record. That's exciting to me.
So it'll get whittled down to 1, obviously, and then I don't know what the trajectory is. It's either put a couple out on Patreon and go that route, or put the whole thing out. You can be like Kanye, just put it out with no promotion, but we're definitely not Kanye. So usually like when you make an album, like even like 10 years ago, you would have like this like 4 to 6 month campaign, like promoting it, you know, leaking out a couple songs at a time. But now it's like, nobody's got time for that. You know, you put it out, you know, because people's voracious appetite it's not dwindling anytime. So
you're also battling with a lot of other bands that have been waiting to put stuff out just like you.
Sure, I know, and the bands that survived, like, amazing. But like we lost so many great bands in those last couple of years, and we're trying to do something for that. Like we owe it to them. It sounds cheesy, but I feel like we owe it to like all the bands that like couldn't make it, you know, or like, you know, genuinely lost people.
Yeah.
To like, I don't know, make something of that really negative time and make it into something positive.
Well, if anything, Bred Raptors is resilient. You've gone through a lot of changes, and you're still here.
Yeah. Well, we just won't die. Yeah. That's our motto.
Much like Yoko Ono.
Yes.
She's still here.
I didn't see the new Did you see the new Beatles documentary?
I have not yet. I just stole my friend's login for Disney Plus, so I will be watching it soon.
Wow.
But I just got that
hot take
today.
Scandalous here. I saw a couple clips of it, and Peter Jackson, the director, was like, "Yes, it's really weird that Yoko Ono is just there the entire time, but she's not like an impedance on it." So I'm kind of curious to see how it turns out. I already said I'm not a huge fan of the Beatles, but like as a musician, their legacy is iconic, and it's fascinating. Like I watched the history of the Eagles. You know, I've listened to like 2 songs from the Eagles. Yeah, but it's like 4 hours long, and I was like captivated because like watching any band struggle is like it is like porn to me, because I'm like, fuck, how do they do it?
You know,
then you have a band like Rammstein that's never had a lineup change, and they're just same band for like 25 years. It's crazy to me.
Yeah.
I just want to know that it's possible, you know? So
I love watching those documentaries too. And just like you, even if it's a band I'm not interested in, something about seeing the behind the scenes stuff fascinates me, which is why I kind of started doing this podcast.
No, and I really appreciate podcasts like this that kind of do the deep dive, because you hear a lot of bands being interviewed and it's just so like formulaic, and you're like, yeah, you know, like, you know, we did this show and it was great, and this other show that was great, and you know, like they never talk about the bad stuff, and like that stuff humanizes you. And I try not to, you know, air dirty laundry or like talk shit, because I just did a diary for a bass magazine, like a tour diary. It's like the third or fourth one I've done, and like cool. It's really cathartic to kind of look at it and do this long form writing about like what a tour actually entails, like what kind of toll it takes on your mental and like physical body. But other ones I've read is just like, you know, we played California today and we're playing California tomorrow, and like that's I don't want to fucking read that. Like I can look at your map and see where you're going. Yeah, exactly. Like, I want to see like why one of your band members left, because like they just couldn't take it. You know, that's interesting to me. And you know, it's not just I want to see somebody struggle, but I don't know. If they can do it, I can do it. It's inspiring. Right. It kind of humanizes the bands that you idolized. Sure. Yeah. And it makes them a little more attainable. Sure, but it's such a different time. I remember the Tom Petty documentary was so fascinating, because like while he's an amazing songwriter, it was just a different fucking time. Like just this dude from fucking Alabama writes an album worth of material, records a really shoddy version on a cassette tape, goes out to LA and is there for 2 days, and at the end of 2 days he literally has like 9 record deal offers. And like he just went into a phone booth and looked up record labels and just showed up. It's just there's no brick and mortar places anymore for record labels, so I don't even know how you do that now. Like it's just a relic in time, and a lot of these older bands would not exist today. Like they could not keep up with like the social media uptick and like the constant, you know, flow of content. It's just I don't know. Like I feel like I'm stuck in between, because I'm like that weird Xennial age where like I was born in '82, so I was born without a computer, and then I had to adjust really quickly. So I know the feeling, man. Just constantly trying to play catch up. Yeah. I was born in '73, so I know the feeling. Gen Xer. Yeah. Yeah, but I grew up with the best music. I had the 70s, 80s, and 90s. So you make a great point, because how do you get your music out to people? You know, record labels, PR people, they have to get inundated with emails. So, I mean, how many are they actually able to look at this point? Oh, no, you have to come fully equipped with like an army of followers. There's a lot of like, we were trying to pay people, like we were trying to pay A&R agents and have PR campaigns. And they're like, we don't even want to accept your money unless you have X number of followers first. Wow. Basically, like half of our job would be done at that point. Yeah. And then like, you can get traction if you already have like, you know, if you have like 25,000 people on Instagram follow you, and like real people, not like paid bots or whatever. Like if you have that, you have a little more leverage. But it's just like on the road, like if you're not making like 3,000 a night after you pay everybody, there's no management will talk to you. And that's just because they can't make any money off you. Wow. So no matter how good you are, no matter like how many crowds you can kind of win over, it doesn't matter. And so that's why everything is done online. Like if you cultivate that following, and you can be like, okay, we're going to play a show here, and it sells out right away because it's just your fans coming. There's like no chance of any kind of crossover or gaining new fans from this. It's just a victory lap every single time. Wow. So do I wish I was there? Fuck yeah, I do. Yeah. But it's not that easy. I don't come from money. You know, Rick Springfield is not my uncle or something that can get me in the door. Right. So thanks a lot, Rick Springfield. What have you done for me ever? Nothing. So are you working with anybody right now, PR wise or anything like that? It's just us. Wow. We were on a record label a couple years ago, and that label dissolved. So, and you know, labels these days, they're more or less like a glorified credit card. They might get you shows here and there. They might pay for a recording or like a tour bus or whatever, but it's all on us. Yeah, you we're doing pay everything that back ourselves. Too. Like, I've booked like over 100 cities by myself. Wow. And that's not going to change anytime soon. Like you might find a booker that's like, hey, I'm good in this area and I can help you out, get a couple shows on your route, but nobody's going to like book an entire like month-long tour for you, you know, unless you're willing to pay a lot. And like those shows, they're going to be door deals. I don't even know, like, you know, most of them aren't going to be guaranteed shows, especially now after COVID. I have no clue how it's going to like pan out. So
yeah, it's a whole new landscape in every aspect. It's unreal.
For sure.
Was there ever any thought to having vocals in any of the music at all?
I'm not against vocals. I just, honestly, at this point, it's like, I don't want to deal with one more person's scheduling bullshit, you know?
Yeah.
Like, if somebody could come in and really add something to the song, and like their vocals are like just 1/4 of an element of the band, I'd totally be down. I'm not anti-vocals. I'm not anti-guitar. It's just right now, especially like you have new people. I don't know if Danny, our new drummer, was like came in with a headset, like he looking like a Backstreet Boy, and was like, "Yo, I got some vocal ideas." I'll be like, "Okay, I guess let's hear it," because you came dressed up. So, but as of right now, I think a lot of people, they like our music, especially wives. They love our music because it sounds like a soundtrack, and we're trying to break more. We've done some film scoring, and we'd really like to do more of it. That rarely has any kind of like lyrical content, but
True.
I would like the band Russian Circles. They had Chelsea Wolfe on a track, and it was great because it was just one track, and it really kind of showcased that, like, damn, this music could really work well with vocals.
Yeah.
They chose not to most of the time because like that's just their strength. It's like getting immersed into a song, and I think vocals might pigeonhole a song to be about one thing, whereas like instrumental song can be about anything you want it to be. So
Yeah.
I'll stick with that.
L1011, they did one EP with vocals, and that was it.
I love them. We were trying to get on a perfect example. We were trying to get on a tour with them, and like management liked us, and it looked like it may have happened, and then all of a sudden it was like, nope, they're just gonna like do just like an evening with basically for every show.
Oh, wow.
So it's a bummer because like you're trying so hard to get any break like that, whereas like we've gotten boned so many times on tour because like we don't have money to buy on the tour.
Yeah.
Basically, if you pay enough, you can get on some of these smaller tours as like support, and I don't know, that's like a tough pill to swallow because it's like you've done everything right up to this point, but you just don't have like the extra grease to get those wheels going, you know?
Yeah. I know. I've really enjoyed listening to the albums. I've gone through the 4 albums, the first EP. It's just such a unique sound. I want to wrap up with, if you were to describe the music to somebody who hadn't heard it before, how would you prepare them for it?
That's a good question, because I kind of have to gauge very quickly, like, how much into music is this person that's asking?
Okay.
They're like, hey, what does your band sound like? And if they're wearing a Mr. Bungle t-shirt, I'm like, great, I can explain this in detail, how this music sounds. Coca-Cola or a Friends t-shirt, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna use some prejudice here, and I'll say, like, the lowest on the low end, I'd say it's like, oh, it's like a movie score, but it's more fun, and I've used that to describe stuff. Or I'll say it's like post-rock, but not really sleepy. We've gotten tagged with like jazz fusion, which makes me barf in my mouth a little, but
really,
I guess that's true. Or like experimental folk we've gotten, because like, the cello is technically an acoustic instrument. It just run the gamut, but we'll never really fit in. And I think I've said this before, but like, we're too wussy for the metal crowd. We're too jazzy for the folk crowd. We're too heavy for the jazz crowd, so we're never really gonna fully fit in. But yeah, I'm like, hey, do you know that band Bon Jovi? It sounds nothing like that.
Yeah,
and it's way better.
It is.
So give us a shot.
It's like if King Crimson beat the shit out of Bon Jovi.
Yeah. Yeah, which I'd pay to see.
Oh.
I'd pay Bon Jovi ticket prices to see that.
Ooh, I would too. All right. So that's, and we'll have you open.
We lost Bon Jovi.
Yeah. John Bovey.
Yeah, for sure. We'll open up for anybody. I remember somebody asked, like, would you guys open up for Nickelback? And I'd be like, fuck yes, we would. We'd open up for Justin Bieber. We'd open up for a K-pop band. I don't care. Like, we will convert any skeptic in the crowd, you know?
Yeah.
Mostly. Yeah. And that's what I really like. And like when we're booking tours, you know, sometimes promoters are like frustrating because they're like, hey, you're weird. We'll put you with this other weird band that doesn't draw anything. And I'm like, no, dude, like put us with a good band that actually draws. Put us with this like, indie pop band. I don't care. Put us with like a really good hip hop act. Like, I don't give a fuck. We will kill it. Just give us a chance.
Yeah, the point isn't to just group shows by their weirdness factor.
Those bands, I love that they're doing it, but they usually can't draw because it's so niche. It's so weird. So anyway, thanks for coming to my other TED Talk.
So what's the weirdest thing you ever got tipped in the subways? I know New Yorkers are famously, unaffected by things. So what is weird stuff you get tipped?
That's true. They're all very jaded. One time we got tipped in, and I just remember this when you said it. I got tipped in like a dishwashing brush, you know, like stuff that you put the dishwashing soap in and you press the button, and they didn't know that, but I was like, I really needed that. You know, I was just like the day before I was like, I fucking hate this sponge, you know, I wish there was some kind of contraption that I can use that let me decide how much dish soap I used. And lo and behold, this guy just put it in there. So
see,
maybe there is a God. I don't know.
Ask and ye shall receive.
Yeah, we got tipped in a lot of weird shit, you know. We'll throw like cigarettes in there. I'm like, what prison did you just come to that this is currency? but it was very nice of them. I know how much cigarettes cost, so I don't smoke, but I appreciate the gesture. So, but yeah, New Yorkers are weird, and I love it, you know. Yeah, I could sell a Lucy. That's our side hustle. If juggling doesn't work out, that could be my job.
Loose cigarettes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, this has been a blast. I've really enjoyed listening to the music over the past couple of weeks that we've been trying to get this together and discovering the sounds, because I've been trying to watch the videos as well, and it's just sure. I have really enjoyed it. I'm hoping that when you guys get this next tour together, you come down to the DC area, because I'll be there.
Yeah, good, man. We appreciate that. Bring your wife, since she likes our music.
I will bring my wife. I will bring my camera. I'll take some shots for you.
Okay, cool.
I won't even charge you anything. I'll do it for the exposure.
Oh, thanks. Good. You tons of exposure. I will expose myself to you. Thank you.
All right. Then we can expose each other. That would be wonderful.
All right, cool.
That'd be an unforgettable experience.
Well, thanks for having us.
Well, my pleasure. My best to Tara. I hope she's doing okay after that, getting stuck in that traffic.
Yeah, she's okay. She just got in, so we were okay. Where
can people follow you? How can they find the albums and maybe buy the physical CDs that you've made? Because I'm going to do that. I'm a big CD guy. I love CDs. So
good. We appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, maybe we should put our shit on mini discs, because I hear that's the next big thing. I'm kidding. You can find us at ubredraptors.com, Instagram, Twitter at ubredraptors, Facebook ubredraptors NYC. If your parents still use Facebook, you can go there. But if you want to like buy any physical merch, or you want to get like high quality streaming stuff or MP3s or FLAC, that's Bandcamp. So ubredraptors.bandcamp.com. That's where this is probably one of the few places you can still buy like really good quality MP3s. Yeah. So that, or you come to a show and you help out the band with your presence, with your energy, buying any kind of merch, giving us a high five after show, giving us much needed validation. So we'll be all over. We're hitting the West Coast for the first time in 2022. So we're excited because we've been neglecting that coast for a long time. So just no dish sponges, because you've already got one of those. Yeah, I'm good on that front forever. All right. I don't know how long it was been since you got tipped once. So,
they wear out eventually.
Yeah, I've not used the same dish sponge for years. I just want people to know that. I don't have E. coli, okay?
Oh, and Pete, thank you so much, man. This has been a blast. I really appreciate it.
Okay, thanks for having us, Mark.